Brian here, welcome to the Angel Share. Just thought I'd show you some of the skills that I'm working on to become a better railroad modeller, and one of them is building model kits. This WW1 Male tank Mark 1 is the first on the hit list, and this goes towards the future layout I'm doing in WW1. What I'll be doing is creating a World War I layout, and this is the process that you go through in building one of these kits, making sure they're clean, give them a wash, dry them off when they come out of the packaging, clear off the residue. Yeah, it's not necessarily model railway related, but it certainly helps build the skills as a modeller, and when your layout's pretty much finished, these little side jobs help keep your hand in. Working on kits, this one was £5-6, so it's relatively cheap before you move on to more expensive kits that you might want to actually put on your layout. So here you see me just kind of putting the pieces together, not very many pieces to be honest, quite straightforward. And I've raised the wheels at the back because of the diorama I'm going to build for this, again to practice the scenic elements and to keep my hand in. The paint I used is the Tamiya XF49 XF26. These are pretty good for mixing, they're great acrylic colours, dry very quick, and they're easy to work in various tones and shades when you mix them together. As you can see there, the green in the front is a nice undertone, it's a nice matte finish altogether. So I've put the tank on the board roughly in the position I feel that I want to make the diorama, the scene. I go and paint the tank with the lettering, so I practice with a screwdriver dipped in white paint and then put it on the side. 193 Sammy. Here I use enamel MIG track wash on the side of the tank just to give it a little bit of weathering. I place it on the diorama made up with a couple of sheets of cardboard on top, and then I look to start adding the grout to start putting in the land features and show how that looks. Here we have the cheap £1 fixing grout from Poundland. Stuff it into the corners, into the card to try and fill out the gaps, make up the landform as it were, trench on one side, bomb crater on the other. So I got a little mix together of PVA, added some paints to it to colour it and try and give it a brown tone. Came out quite milky there where I've added the brown scatter on top of it. Added some green scatter on top of that to see how it would work, especially with wet PVA, adding the stones etc helps to give it something to bite to it, so they stuck down nicely. On the other side I decided just to paint it all brown prior to adding the PVA. As the other side you can still see the white plaster poking through certain areas it hadn't covered properly. So there we go, we've got the PVA all covered on the brown area, blended into both sides. Now we start adding scenics, little bits of foliage, trees, twigs etc. Scatter them about the area with some tarmac scatter, some fine ballast, and try to make the scene look a little bit more organic. The tank obviously was wanting some attention, so it's been weathered and some tones added to that, and working between the tank and the diorama helps put both pieces together using the same tone. So something I used on the tank I would use on the diorama. So here you can see the kind of muddy underside of the tank as it traverses that ditch. It's quite small, not a very big diorama, but it gives me a chance to kind of practice my skills. The War World Scenics weathering powder, concrete dust mixed with surgical spirit created a nice mud effect. This mud effect's been added to the side of the tank, on the tracks and onto the ground underneath. So you can see from these pictures with the added scenics, the stones and obviously the mud on the tank is starting to come together. It certainly has its own appeal, and all this is great practice prior to putting it on my WW1 layout, which you don't want to be doing this on there and not having the effect properly and having to take anything off and redo it. So I feel that the little cheap bags of scatter that I've gathered here and there have come together really well to help create this diorama, and it's starting to look the part. Adding some extra effects, I took some old fencing, broke it apart, decided to paint that all brown to make posts for the barbed wire, some twigs to make it an anti-tank barrier, anti-troop barrier. Put that in front of the German trench that's right at the bottom left hand corner there. Added the barbed wire, which was wire off an old cable, wrapped round, super glued to simulate barbed wire posts. You can see there, it looks actually quite effective as the tank's approaching that position. Done some weathering as well, added some weathering on the dried bed there and round about the other areas where the brown seemed to be a little bit shiny, and I feel that it's came together. The diorama is quite effective, working off pictures I saw online. So here we have a little flyby. I think you'll agree that for someone that's a beginner at this sort of thing, it's turned out quite well. Very happy with it. Any ideas of any additions, by all means leave them in the comments. If there's anything you think that I could add here, certainly want to maybe get some sandbags and figures, that's kind of obvious, but we'll take it from there, and I feel that's it pretty much finished. So thanks for sticking with it. Somewhat train related but not fully, and I'll catch you in the next video. Take care and thank you. Bye bye.